You're listening to Legacy Lawyers, hosted by Michael Haslam and Nathan Croxford.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Legacy Lawyers. I am Mike Haslam, and today with me I have Cottle, one of the great attorneys in our office here. What's up, Connor?
What's up, Mike? Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, I think this is our first one together.
Yeah, you've got to do some podcasts with Nathan, but we haven't done one before together.
That's right.
Cool. Well, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
So me and Connor had tons of great ideas for this podcast episode, but we decided to talk about family cabins, or you can even look at it like a family vacation spot. It's a different asset. There's very different approaches to how you plan for it. So we want to give you our top 5 things that you should be thinking about when you leave a cabin to your family. So Connor, just maybe give some of your thoughts of why like dealing with a family cabin is a little different than some of the other assets that we plan for.
I think it's a little different because, at least in my experience, the people passing down kind of those vacation properties, cabins, and things like that, there's a lot of emotional attachment to those types of places, right? They've had a lot of good times there, and it's not just this person is getting it in a lot of cases. It's this person may be controlling it, but it's going to be used by a variety of other people. You know, they want it to be the family place that the family can still go and enjoy after they're gone. So that adds some nuance to the planning, I think.
It really does. It's kind of surprising how, you know, if you've gone to that location growing up, or now you're an adult and you've taken your kids to that, family cabin, the idea of just liquidating it and dividing up the money is hard for a lot of the kids, and it gets emotional, and which it should, right? Like it has your family memories. But I always kind of find there might be one person who, at least one, sometimes it's more, that's like, actually, I don't love the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that much of a sentimental tie to it.
Right.
And I do love the idea of just having my money. So that dynamic, when you layer that in, it gets a little harder.
No, I completely agree. There's always those people that don't have that emotional attachment that others may have, or they may be in a different financial situation, and holding on to that cabin, there might be costs associated with that versus getting the equity from selling the cabin.
Yeah, they might still love the cabin as much as their siblings. It's just they might really need to help one of their kids with college, or who knows, right? Like they could just have a priority that's really important to them.
Or they might be so far away they're not going to get to utilize the cabin, where the siblings are going to get to utilize, that portion of their inheritance significantly more. So interesting situations can arise.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? The family cabins in Utah, the kid lives in Pennsylvania, like
right.
They're not going to get a benefit from it very much.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 5 main things that can really help with leaving this asset, leaving this legacy. Most of my clients don't love the idea of selling the family cabin after they pass away, at least not immediately. Like a lot of people understand eventually it's going to make sense to sell this property.
Mm-hmm.
But, if I'm talking to someone and they're like, well, if I pass away in the next 5-10 years, I don't want it sold right away. I think my family would still have a lot of use and benefit. I like the idea of my family still going there and creating family memories and still having a place that brings them all together. So assuming someone's pretty committed to wanting to keep that family property around for a couple years, what's a few of the things they should consider? Maybe we can just take turns. You pick one of your top 5, and then I'll pick one of mine. And me and Connor never compared our top 5 lists.
We did
so
not.
We will see. we reserve the right. We reserve the right to add an extra item to the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Who wants to go first?
You do it. What do you think? What's one of the first things you think?
One of the
definitely
first
need to
things
be
I would
done?
want to discuss with a client who's considering this would be kind of that practical implication, right? Is the cabin paid off, or are there associated costs? Is there a mortgage on the cabin that's going to need to be paid ongoing? Because if you want this cabin in the family for a long time, that you could be passing along an obligation that might be unwanted, right? So you need to understand the practical implications. You know, what's it going to cost ongoing for my children or those I want to use that cabin? Are there property taxes, mortgages, upkeep, maintenance, that type of thing? We've had some issues where there's also, remote cabins have, water rights to deal with, or other kind of unique situations like livestock and grazing rights and all those things. So those need to be thought through and planned for before just kind of passing it on.
Yeah, so you really kind of almost have to look at what the expenses are annually, and say, how are we going to deal with those expenses? So I've had some clients set aside money for it. They say, I want the cabin to stay in the trust, and I want $100,000 to stay in the trust and be earmarked for cabin expenses.
Right.
If they don't have 100K or they don't have money they want to earmark for it, what's maybe some of the other ideas that they can look at?
If they're not going to earmark money for it, that cost has to go somewhere, right? So how's that going to get paid becomes the next consideration. Are the family members in a position where they can absorb that cost and still see the value there, or is it going to be, not a friendly thing? So
Yeah, so you could have in there, hey, every family member chips in equally to cover the costs, and assuming they feel like everyone can do that, that can work fine. But there's always that concern, even if they all are doing well, or they should have the financial resources to chip in whatever, the couple thousand a year, whatever it ends up being. What if someone doesn't pay, right?
right, who's going to go collect that from the family member, right?
So we've approached that problem in a lot of different ways for clients, but we definitely address it whenever we're going to leave it in a trust. So it can be as simple as, if you don't pay, you can't use the cabin, right?
Right.
It can be something a little more hardcore, like if you don't pay, then you don't get anything from the cabin when it gets sold.
You forfeit your interest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's stuff in the middle ground, right? Like, hey, if you don't pay, you can't use it, but if that kid passes away and now their kids want to use it, then if they start paying, they can use it.
Right.
So you kind of have a saving clause for the next generation. If their parents didn't like the cabin, maybe the next generation would. So there's a lot of ways to do it. The key there is,
You get real creative with it.
yeah, you can be creative.
Yeah.
But whoever's your trusted advisor, the attorney advising you through how to structure it, make sure they're kind of helping you understand the pros and cons of each way to do that, because there definitely are. Okay, item 2. I'm going to go with the use of the cabin, scope of the use. So if you have a cabin, who can use it, right? And what uses are okay. So can it be an Airbnb cabin?
Right.
Or is that 100% banned? What other use things do you sometimes get worried about, Connor?
We run into, in larger families, you run into scheduling issues, right? How often can they use it? Is there a mechanism for scheduling who gets to use it and when, to avoid, conflicting scheduling? That always gets brought up, like, can I just go whenever I want? Do I need to coordinate it with the trustee? That type of thing.
Yeah, can 2 families be up there at the same time? I had a client be like, yeah, it's fine. Like, they can all use it at the same time, and if they show up and other people are there and they don't want to share the space with them, then they can leave. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's going to work as well. I would have preferred them to do it a little different, but they really felt good about that.
Yeah.
Most of my clients, we have the trustee send out a schedule, and everyone signs up for their week.
Yeah, it's such a family dynamic issue, right? Some families they wouldn't mind. They'd prefer to be all there together, and some families would not, right? Depending on the size of the cabin and all that stuff. So there's a lot of family dynamic issues that can be uncovered there. Like, oh, I don't want a vacation with my sibling, but this other sibling I might, you know.
And you really have to think a little bit about how to build in some flexibility there, because what the scheduling, like having everyone show up, might be fine for your direct children, but
Right.
when the grandchildren start taking over the use of the property, they're probably not quite as close as siblings, right? In each generation, you just get a little more dilution in some of those relationships.
Yeah. Agreed.
One other use thing is guests, right? Who can
Yep.
who can come to the cabin with the family, and kind of clarifying that. So that's
And to hit your earlier point on the Airbnb, you know, can it be used for that? Is that because that might change how you want to run it? You might then want to put it in an LLC, stuff like that, to make that kind of operate and pay off any outstanding obligations or obligations going forward. But then you've got another scheduling issue to deal with because you have limited use of that.
yeah, those are really good thoughts. It can solve your money problem potentially, right? Like, well, I think some of the kids are not going to want to contribute to the cost, but if we can Airbnb it 10 weeks a year, it should break even.
Right.
So, so you can totally structure it. Say, hey, like Airbnb it just only like the bare minimum to kind of keep it break even.
Right.
So, cool. All right, Connor, give us a third consideration.
Third consideration is what do we do if, say, someone wants out at some point, right? They don't want to be involved in that.
Yes.
What can they do? Can they get out, and what does that look like? Are they buying out their siblings for, fair market value of their portion, or, what can you do there? So,
Yeah. Okay. So, like the year after mom and dad passes away, the kids are like, one of them's like, I really want bought out. Do they have any enforceable rights? Is kind of the term we'd use. Like, can they force the buyout?
right.
Because anyone can, go to their siblings and say, "Hey, mom and dad left this cabin in the trust. If I waive all my inheritance rights to it, will you guys give me some cash?" And they can negotiate a fair purchase. But what they can't do is, force them to do that. Say, "Hey, you have to give me this money."
Right.
Unless
You owe me
the
X
trust
amount of
allows it.
dollars. Yeah.
So
Also,
do you?
can they sell it to someone else if there is no family member? Does the agreement allow for that?
Oh, can they sell their right to use the cabin?
Their ownership to someone else. Probably not a very likely scenario with family cabins, but it could come.
Yeah, I can't think of ever allowing that with a family cabin because of the family side of it.
And the reason I bring that up is I would want to definitively state that just so that's not a question.
Yeah, yeah, it would be smart to make that really clear that their interest is not transferable to a third party. If they do want, so what kind of buyout setups do you think makes the most sense? Like, I usually haven't said, yeah, one kid can force a buyout, but when do you think, like, hey, a forced buyout or a forced sell of the property are warranted?
That's a tough question because it's so situational. Yeah, I mean, say a child who's one of the partial owners is declaring bankruptcy, or something like that. They're gonna have their interest maybe attacked or attached at a future date. To preserve the cabin, they'd want to get rid of that ownership interest. They might need to raise money, and that could be a way to do it. But
Yeah, I like that. So there could be some triggering events, right? Like
Mhm.
bankruptcy, maybe divorce, maybe they're not paying the expense payment
Right.
monthly.
Hmm.
Um, and some of those triggering events can trigger like a discounted buyout.
Right.
Okay, yeah, like we, you can ask to be bought out, but after the appraisal, you're only getting half of the actual value since you want out early.
Hmm.
Um,
Or you've damaged the property or something like that. Could be another situation where, you showed up and you threw a party and things got broken and, you know,
you didn't
that
repair it.
that upset the other family members.
Yeah, so um, yeah, egregious behavior. All those could be like, that's like that's the other owner's forcing one owner to sell, right?
Hmm.
And then there's the other component. The one owner wants to force the others to buy him out. So those that scenario where just one kid wants his siblings to buy him out usually is not triggered because of a problem. It's just they
Hmm.
want their money sooner than
Yeah, it's
later.
more financial based.
Yeah, so we've seen the discount buyout work okay in that situation where it's like
Hmm.
if it's within the first 10 years of us passing away, then they can take 50% or 70% or whatever. And so then that person has to decide, if they really need the money that bad, they really want it that bad, then great, they can get bought out, but it's going to be for a
Hmm.
little bit less.
They could
So,
structure a schedule of payoff over a longer time period as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that too. Like you get paid out a little bit each year.
Hmm.
Yeah. So anything else on buyouts? I mean, was that item more centered just to buying out one kid, or was that also kind of broader to address when you can sell the cabin as a whole?
That was more towards like one person wanting out
Okay.
of the structure. So the next topic could be, you all agree to sell the cabin at a certain time, and if that's allowed.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that segue is nice. So the ultimate exit strategy, right? There's some
Hmm.
point where the trust sh- needs to probably not continue to manage the cabin and it needs to transfer and kind of be done. And this could be 3 generations down the road, right? It could be after
Hmm.
the children, grandchildren are done using the cabin, and now it's your great grandchildren that are deciding we really need to be done with the family cabin. There's just
Right.
too many of us. It's just it's not benefiting the family like it used to.
And
So
I'm having flashbacks to property law. The rule against perpetuities that every law student has nightmares about. That you can't have that be. You can never sell this for eternity, right? In perpetuity, it has to be held by the family. There's got to be some end date in sight or contemplated.
yeah, and in Utah, we've loosened that requirement. We allow 1,000 years,
Hmm.
so you can.
Which is basically eternity if we're thinking about it.
It's a long freaking time.
Yeah,
You might have to rebuild that cabin a couple times over a
yeah.
thousand
It's
years.
it's going to be historical at that point.
Yes, it'd be old. So but the idea behind that, why that is a rule, is it just like things kind of have to have an exit point, an end point. Um, so I like just a vote. If a majority, or a
Hmm.
super majority vote says it's time to sell, then great. I love the idea of offering it to anyone who didn't want to sell first, right? Oh, you didn't want to sell?
That
Okay.
right of first refusal.
Well, you get first right of refusal to buy it. Yeah. Um, but I really do like a clause in there where they can sell it without unanimous votes. Unanimous
Hmm.
votes are tough.
Yeah, because you could always have one, being stubborn. No, I fully agree. You want that outlined in whatever document you're executing. That how that's going to operate and spelled out so there's not confusion, right? If it's going to be unanimous and that's really what you want, I would take the same position as you and kind of say, how about majority? It's going to be a little more flexible in the event, you know there's a division.
And then you really want to be clear on how to value that. That's a common thing that gets disputed is what's the value of the property.
Right.
So,
Yeah, back to the voting thing, there's also how do you do the voting, right? Like you may have 3 or 4 different families involved. Does each family get one vote or does each person get a vote? And how does that operate? You kind of need to be pretty clerical in spelling that out just to make that process easier.
yeah, and that flows right into what I had as my fifth, right?
Oh,
Like
perfect.
who actually makes the decisions and what's really how does the voting really work? What did you have as a fifth?
Um, I had how does one person get out, and then how do you decide whether you can sell the property, and then who's responsible for, I mean, maintenance, which we kind of covered at the beginning, right? That's an obligation. How does that get paid for? But I was thinking more like property damage. There's a storm comes through and tears the roof off. There's not enough money left there because that money was just for property taxes. How does that get solved?
Yeah, some of like a big unexpected expense that exceeds
Yeah.
the normal. Well, so and I think that all. So yeah, so I think the fifth of own like decision making and control of the property is what then fills in the gap for all the other little things you need to think about, just like a big disaster or a big issue. So how you can do it and how a trust works, right? A trust has a trustee. The trustee controls the trust assets. So if you leave a cabin in trust for your family, the trustee of the trust is going to have a lot of discretion on how some of the nuances or some of the specified rules get applied. So for example, if you said that we send a calendar out every year and everyone signs up, well, the trustee is the one sending that calendar out every year. And
Right.
so I always have my clients think about so there's the trustee who's going to make sure everything gets sold and distributed right after you pass away. But then should they also be the trustee, for a long over the trust? I mean, over the family cabin,
Right.
or does it make sense at that point to have people take turns every couple years? Which I'm a fan of, taking turns.
Yeah, it spreads out the obligation a little, the administration of it, because, I mean, people move away. You'd probably want someone who's relatively close and can handle issues, readily. So there's all sorts of considerations there. I like switching it up too, just to kind of spread it out.
Yeah,
There-
I like that too.
Yeah, you always have some. I mean, some families have that one child that is more suited for that type of role, right? And they're going to want that person to do it. But I always end up having the same conversation with clients about, it is an administrative task, right? It's a job, so make sure that they're aware of that and they're okay with that, and they're comfortable taking that on.
And they're going to do it, right? They're
Right.
going to do it. Then I think within that, right, I put sometimes, the majority of the family will just vote the trustee each year too as an option. And so if someone's always up for doing it, they can just keep re-voting them in.
Right.
But that's where the language on the voting is really crucial. Because what happens when the second generation starts being involved? How are you counting those votes?
Right. Do they get a vote?
Yeah, are you voting every person in the family? So there's now 20 people, or are you still voting only at the family level? So you had 5 kids, so it's always 5 votes.
Yep. Each family gets a vote, which I've seen more recently, I think.
I think it works a little bit better if there's some pretty big swings in the number of kids they have. So if one child has 8 kids and another child has 1 kid,
Disproportionate voting power there.
yeah, when you get to the grandkid level, the family of 8's gonna always
Yeah,
control.
they're going
the
to get their way, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if there's only 6 other grandkids between all the other families, then that family of 8, it's basically not their cabin, but they will have a lot of say.
And I don't know about you, but I'm assuming it's the same. But I noticed when I bring up these topics, they hadn't really, like, most clients hadn't really thought about that. They hadn't really considered, those issues. All they knew was, I love this cabin or this property. I want my family to still be able to go there and have good times and make those memories. And that's kind of as far as the thought process went. So it's our job to make sure we raise those issues and think through those issues with the client so that it's just easier to administer.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. Like, a lot of people haven't thought through all these nuances, but that's exactly why they're coming to a really good attorney, because they know what they want. They just need help to make sure they get there the right way.
Yeah. And most clients think that a lot of these aren't going to be an issue, and they might not be an issue now, but down the road, things can change, relationships can change, and they can become issues. So you kind of want to head them off at the pass, as it were.
Yeah, we want to avoid worst case scenario as much as we can. A lot of times they don't come up. A lot of times they don't come up, but for every time they haven't come up, we've also seen them show up. So
right.
It's hard.
You can't predict the future, so you kind of gotta prepare for those hypotheticals just so it's there.
And I always remind my clients as we're putting through all these rules, because as you start going through those and you start laying them all out, like, sometimes it will cause people to pause and be like, do I really want to leave it in trust?
Right.
Right? This is starting to sound a little complex.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be too hard for everybody? And I just kind of remind them, like, hey, these are like the default rules, right? These are like, hey, this is the rule if everyone's not on the same page. If you feel pretty confident your kids are just going to be able to, coordinate the cabin stuff pretty easily, then these rules aren't going to matter that much, because they're just gonna share it and take care of it, and it should be fine. Mm-hmm. But if they're gonna be like, the rule says this, then I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe it is too complex, and you should back off it.
And I have had clients in the middle of that, and I go about it the same way. We can build in some flexibility and things like that. We don't have to be too strict. But I have had clients in the middle of that conversation say, you know what, that the more that we think about it, the more we just want to leave it up to them. Right? If they want to keep it, they can keep it. If they want to sell it, they can sell it.
Yeah. So, well, and I don't love that personally, because I'm a little more of like, if we're gonna give them the option to keep it, we need to give them the rules on how they keep it.
Right?
Because I don't know how they're gonna be able to negotiate those rules amongst themselves. So that just means the trust is going to say sell the cabin, and then if they really don't want to sell the cabin, then they can come up with their rules and save it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we're saying the same thing. I don't say in the document itself you can keep it or sell it. Like,
right. No, thanks for clarifying. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you have to sell it, but that doesn't prevent them from agreeing as a family to keep it and under what rules, and setting up an LLC and all that good stuff.
Right.
Well, Connor, this probably makes you want to go buy a family cabin.
It does. And I'm going to be pretty strict in my rules when I pass it down.
You're going to lay it down.
Crazy stuff in there. Yeah.
Like we kind of have like almost more like not quite a timeshare thing, but access to a cabin throughout the year.
Okay.
We get to use it like 6-7 times a year, and it's been really cool to build those memories with our kids and everything. So yeah, like I really see the value in keeping it around. And so we actually share that, with 6-7 other owners, total strangers, right? Didn't know any of them at all. And it's worked it's been really, really great for us. It's worked really, really well. And it's really because we just have really good rules and everyone follows the rules. And it just makes it nice and easy to share it. So even non-family members share cabins now. It's actually become a really popular thing. There's a lot of companies that do it now. They will sell those properties.
Those joint investment cabins and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Fractional.
Is yours out like in the woods, like actual like cabin, you're remote, or are you lakeside or what?
It's kind of in the middle of Utah. It's, the cabin's a little nicer, so it's a little more like a house cabin. It has running water. It has all the, it gets satellite, right? Like it has
all the amenities, right?
It,
That's
yeah,
how I
it even,
prefer a cabin.
It even has internet, so I mean, we're not roughing it at all. But it's pretty far away from everything, so it's
nice.
Yeah, it's really quiet and pretty, and there's not tons of people, and there's a reservoir not too far away. So yeah, it's been a good spot.
No, I fully agree with it. I have great memories as a child of going to a family home. It wasn't a cabin, but it was 4 hours away, and we would go and spend holidays there with everybody and stuff like that. And I have great memories of that. So I'm a big believer in retaining those types of places for the family. You just want to make it easy on them.
Yeah, just do it right. Like
Right.
set them
Try
up.
to head off the conflicts.
Yeah, just do it right for them. Well, cool. Well, we hope everyone learned something from this episode. Hopefully, you now have some great ideas on how to protect your cabin and leave that as a legacy for your children and grandchildren. Definitely reach out to us here at Voyant Legal if you have questions or need help with anything, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to Legacy Lawyers with Michael Haslam and Nathan Croxford. We give you the juicy detail of cases that our law firm has dealt with. We take out the lawyer talk and legalese and show you what options some of our clients had to choose from to fix their situation. The effects of not doing planning can be devastating. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Voyant Legal. Call us at 801-951-0500 or send us an email at team@voyantlegal.com. And for commonly asked questions, hit voyantlegal.com/resources. We'll see you next time.